We are pointed in the right direction, but this is not a placid river that we're talking about. So we have to remain focused if we're going to navigate our way around a host of challenges. One of the major challenges that we face is moving electric vehicles from a niche market to an affordable alternative for most American families. We know that the early generations of these vehicles are not likely to be affordable for the average family. I mentioned earlier the tax incentives contained in the Recovery Act for plug-in hybrids. The Act gives a tax credit for up to $7,500 for plug-in hybrids. Such credits could help close the affordability gap and give consumers a powerful reason to choose an advanced vehicle. But the affordability gap still remains significant, even with the tax credits. And there's another problem. $7,500 tax credit applies only to the first 200,000 sales from each manufacturer, and it expires entirely in the year 2014. That creates an uncertainty that is hampering our ability to move electric vehicles into the mainstream. Manufacturers will be less certain that they will have buyers for these advanced vehicles if the credits come with those kinds of expiration dates. We've taken some other steps to stimulate the market for alternative energy vehicles. As early as 1992, Congress passed a law mandating that federal vehicle fleets contain a certain percentage of alternative fuel cars and trucks. Other federal laws and executive orders followed, but each of those mandates lacked teeth. Federal agencies are able to opt out or waive those mandates by citing uncompetitive costs or the lack of available alternative fuels. Again, we're pointed in the right direction, but failing to move with real urgency. The one set of rules with real teeth is CAFE fuel economy standards. But here, we're rowing against the current. Until its restructuring in 2007, CAFE was an example of U.S. policy working against, not with, U.S. manufacturers. CAFE's provisions before 2008 discriminated against U.S.-made vehicles with the same efficiency as imports. Even with the worst of those discriminatory provisions now removed, CAFE forces auto manufacturers to focus on incremental improvements rather than dramatic leaps forward. CAFE is a rowboat when what we need is a high-tech whitewater raft, something to carry us with confidence towards that ultimate goal, affordable alternatives to the internal combustion engine.
Is that to a dependence on increasingly expensive raw materials like rare earths or lithium? We have to be sure that we can get these materials cost effectively through this next long product cycle, 20 or 30 years. And so as a result, the organizers of the conference have asked this panel to assemble a very interesting group indeed, and give you their perspective on lithium availability and the life cycle of lithium as it passes through the automotive market, from the time that it's brought out of the ground in whatever form it's produced to the time that it ends up in secondary or even tertiary uses following its use in motor vehicles. I'm going to ask each one of the panelists to introduce themselves and give you a couple of minutes introduction to their company and what they do, and then we'll launch into some questions. I'm sure you're all familiar with the format already. There are no microphones circulating for questions. You have cards in front of you. If you wish to ask some or all of the panel delegates a question, please write it out on the cards, signal to one of the people circulating in the room. They'll get those questions to me, and we'll feed them in. And hopefully we have a nice, enjoyable 90-minute session ahead of us. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Jay Chmelauskas from Western Lithium. He'll give you a quick introduction on what he does, and then we'll go down the panel line, and everyone will get that done. We'll launch into questions.
Thanks very much, John. Do you want us to stay in the chair? Yeah. Introduce ourselves? Okay. So Jason Chmelauskas, I'm president of Western Lithium, and Western Lithium is developing one of the world's largest undeveloped lithium deposits, and it's based here in North America. We're developing a deposit that will be able to supply potential of well over 1 million cars per year. And we believe that a domestic, secure, scalable supply source with the upcoming demand we see from electric cars is going to be a very important requirement to develop the electric car industry. To quote some gentlemen this morning, we're talking without any stumbling along the way, and have the right supply chain in place. One comment I'd like to say is that when the question comes up about lithium, there's two answers that I generally get, and especially at these conferences. And the first answer is there's a lot of lithium supply out there, and it's no problem. And that answer is correct. We're not going to run out of lithium. We can discuss that in greater detail. The second part of that question is that if you believe we're starting electrification of the transportation sector, and that's happening today, the time lag to develop a new lithium source is many years, 5 to 10 years in many cases. And if you believe that that we're going to have a demand surge between the 2015 to 2020 timeframe, then today is the day to start securing those sources of lithium. And we've seen this. We've seen many Asian companies now take positions in lithium supplies around the world, which we'll talk to in greater detail. But just to give you an example, if you were to ask the largest producer in the world, you said, I need lithium. I see a demand surge coming up here. I need lithium. I need you to double your supply. They would tell you. They would say, okay. And you said it doesn't matter how much it's going to cost. I'll give you $100 million. I'll give you $300 million. Just give me the lithium. We'll talk about the price inelasticity of lithium too. It'll take them 6 months to build their evaporation ponds. It takes 1 to 2 years to evaporate that lithium source. Then you tell me there's about a 6-month supply chain, to get through the cathode producers. So if you ask today an existing producer to supply you more lithium, it's about a 2.5 to 3 year cycle to get that lithium. That's today. Now the new developers like ourselves, there's feasibility studies involved, there's permitting, there's infrastructure. So anyways, I think we'll have a lively discussion here in terms of lithium supply and future demand. Thanks.
Thanks, Jay. Our next panelist is Jeff Kessel from A123 Systems. Obviously, I think many people here are familiar with A123 as one of America's preeminent new battery developers. Jeff, please.
Thanks, John. As John said, my name is Jeff Kessel, and I'm responsible for transportation marketing at A123. Unfortunately, Jason Rzucidlo, who was on the program, wasn't able to join us today, so I'm standing in for him. When we think about A123, we're in a period where I'm not sure how well we are known in every circle, so just maybe a few facts about A123 as a company first. Our technology is based on technology that we originally licensed from MIT in Boston, and the company was founded in 2001. So we're approaching 10 years of existence. And we started actually our commercial application some years ago in power tools, but now the vast majority of our business is earned in transportation and in electric grid storage. I think what we're able to contribute to this panel is that A123 is a bit unique in the battery industry in terms of how vertically integrated that we are. We actually buy the raw materials like lithium carbonate, and we mix our own cathode powder. The reason for that is that allows us to control the secrets in our chemistry that we licensed from MIT some time ago. So because of that desire to control the material from its formation all the way through the process, A123 mixes its own powder. We coat our powder on electrodes. We form and make cells, and then also we have a